Letters. Ray to Shirl. July 19th, 1945. From Arizona, Ray writes, Darling, I am 7 kinds of a damn fool. I'll agree with anyone on that. In the past, I have done quaint and horrible things. I may even have been childish, but even I learn why I'm wrong. So now let's be for getting things straight. I honestly believed that your letters were tied up in the mail. I know that you had written. I didn't tell my mother to ask you to write. That's her own idea. I mentioned that your letters were lost in the mail. On second thought, I did say she should tell you to write me to here because I wasn't leaving. The way I explained things, she probably got it mixed up. Even though I did it once before, that would be a pretty cheap thing to do. I didn't have enough money to call you, or I would have. If I had any sense at all, I could have made things more clear. Please don't think I was crying on my mother's shoulder. It makes me feel like a plugged nickel. I believe you, darling, so much that on doing some back thinking I get pretty ashamed of myself. I read all this stuff all over, and even it doesn't sound very clear. Gee whiz, you know how I feel. I'm a no-good so-and-so, and you shouldn't even bother to send me the Boy Scout knife. Part 2 is some of my analyzing. There are a lot of I's in it, and maybe it's a lot of hooey, but it's the stuff that goes on in my head. It's about what happened to me. If things had gone right, I should be on my way overseas. At the last minute, something went wrong. I didn't have anything to do with it. All the bigwigs admit that I got a bum deal and I should have gone out instead of McQueen, but there isn't anything that can be done. I wanted badly to leave with Buck and the gang. Aside from liking them and getting along together okay, I had faith in the crew. I was willing to trust my life with them so much as they were willing to trust me with theirs. That's very important in flying. That's one reason I wanted to stick with them. This next stuff is probably a hell of a lot of stuff to say, but you're closer to me than anyone else, so you can understand. I'm scared of the B-29. It's an amazing scientific wonder and all that. It's the greatest wartime airplane in the world. It actually performs miracles, but it isn't perfect yet. There's a lot of bugs in it, so I'm scared of it. It isn't just me. Everyone that flies in it is scared. I doubt if there's a man here that wouldn't rather be in B-17s. We're all scared, but that doesn't mean we're cowards. We'll continue to fly it as long as there's a war. The greatest percentage of 29 losses are due to operations, not combat. Every mission I fly in a 29 is flirting with death. What's the difference if it's here or overseas? It hits the ground just as hard on either side. All this is to explain another reason for wanting to leave last Tuesday. The sooner I get overseas and get in all my missions, the sooner I can get out of the 29s. Now I've got about 20 more missions before I get to the big league. I'll sweat every one of them out. The wind-up of this analysis is right and wrong. I should be overseas by now. A man who is in combat isn't doing the country one damn bit of good. I stopped to wonder about how many of the fellows that came into the army with me 3 years ago are still as safe and comfortable as I am. I wonder what guys like Billy and Johnny think about it. They've done a job while I've been wasting so much time. How can I ever stand up against them? So that's another reason I wanted to leave. That's about all my true confessions. I'm scared but not yellow. I want to do what I have to and what I want to get it over with so I could go home to stay. I had to get this off my chest. What do you think about it all? I suppose you're pretty disgusted with me. I don't blame you much. I'm pretty disgusted with myself. The latest news is nothing else definite. I'm assigned to another crew, number 2213. I go through the whole works all over again and am scheduled to leave September 25th. I've only met the pilot so far. He is Dana Hardy of Boston, a first lieutenant. I'm sharing a room with him and he seems like a nice fellow. He's been flying a long time, so he should know his job. I'll probably meet the rest of the crew in a couple of days. I've gone through a thermos bottle of black coffee while writing this. That little gadget is a great morale builder to me. You want another lesson in B-29s, huh? Okay, our subject today will be speed. The airspeed indicator on a plane registers the speed in miles per hour that you are traveling through space. Suppose we're going along at 200 miles per hour indicated at 20,000 feet with a temperature of negative 10 degrees Celsius. There's a lot of converting to be done to find the true airspeed and ground speed. You've got to know these things to bomb accurately or to meet your fighter protection at the correct second. So here's what you do. There's a gadget known as an E6B computer that does all the figuring for you. You change your 200 miles per hour indicated to knots. That would be 173. Then you place your altimeter your altitude at 20,000 opposite your free air temperature 10 degrees Celsius negative on the computer scales. The inner scale you find 173 and read the opposite on it on the outer scale. The answer is 243 nautical miles per hour. Changing that back to miles per hour, you get 280 miles per hour. So, not allowing for wind, if your indicator measures 200 miles per hour, you're actually going over the ground at 280 miles per hour. The difference changes with altitude and temperature. The wind has a lot to do with your actual ground speed. For instance, if we were heading along a course of 270 degrees, we'd be backing a headwind and would be going 30 km slower, or if we were 90 degrees, we'd have a tailwind and be going 30 km faster. Also, if we were going 180 degrees, we'd maintain the same speed, but you can see that we'd be blown to the right. Our compass would point to 180 degrees, but we'd actually be heading around 170 degrees. So to make good on our original 180 degrees, we'd head the plane at 190 degrees, and then we'd be blown back to 180 degrees. This is known as drift, and it's a hellraiser. Some of the winds over Japan hit 200 miles per hour. It may be hard to understand all this, but if you have an E6B, it's very easy and very accurate. Sometimes we get a ground speed of well over 300 miles per hour, and sometimes it's as low as 150. It all depends on the altitude and wind. That's enough for lesson number 2. You've got me all confused now. Did Bill get my little gift yet? You know, he could become very attached to something like that. That was a swell letter I got today. There was one thing lacking, this affair about Bertha and the sinus trouble. I am dying with curiosity. Do you have trouble reading my writing? I do. Ask Miles what a flying blank blank is. He'll get a great delight of telling you. I'm too bashful. This stuff is beginning to blue on me, so mayhaps I better dry up. I wish I were in Chicago so I could rub your tummy for you. I still don't know how you came out of the operation that wasn't an operation. How's your mom and her twinkle coming along? I bet she looks like a siren now. Do people ever mistake you for sisters? We'll have to start calling her Eileen. I'm trying to work out some kind of system so we can swindle somebody out of a bicycle for Eddie. Don't say anything to him. I broke enough promises to him about bicycles. Let's just plot silently. Well, I've been windy enough for one day. I've got to go fight with the captain about my grind school credits. Bye for now. I love you, Ray.